You see?
What about the opposite? Refusal to identify with an occupation. Because, well, I remember I've always been saying what I am with a not. I'm not a model. I worked as a model for like 3 years and I didn't feel I was successful enough. So it was like, and I was also ashamed of how I would express my sexuality and like through some dissociative states. So I would say, I'm not a model, I'm not a manager. That's when I started my bachelor's in management. I'm not a marketing manager. That was my first job. My second job, I still can't define what exactly I was doing. I feel like I was copy-pasting info from one Google Sheet into another Google Sheet, but that can't be it. Like I worked for a year and a half there, and it was a startup, and I helped it to grow, I hope. Then I'm still saying that I'm not an English teacher. I've been doing it for 3.5 years, and I still struggle with this like identification. So it's like I'm pushing away all of it. Can you help me, like, to what is it about?
It seems to me like you're trying on these different identities, and you're finding out that no, this is not a sustainable version of myself, which I think can be a healthy way to find our way closer to more and more of well, who am I? Okay, we don't know that perfect answer, and what's healthy is that you're not over-identifying. You're not saying I'm that, and that's what I'm going to be, and whether I like it or not, I'll be it, and then I'll drink on the weekends. You're able to try it, to let it go, even when it's quite difficult, because you say, well, what's next? I don't know. And maybe you could play with ideas. Well, what are things that you can look back at your life and say, well, I'm a traveler. I'm curious about things like this, and they don't have to be labels. They can be experiences. What are experiences that you're having that have brought value to your life? We get in trouble when we over-identify, okay, or attach ourselves to ideas of who we are. Maybe it's temporarily a good feeling because then we're clear with it within that identity. But it doesn't allow us to keep growing and graduating from one part of ourselves to the next, Ultimately, when we get past that, we become more interested in just the experience of living. It doesn't matter what the label is. We're just alive in the moment, in the present. And without the baggage of should I or shouldn't I, how does it look, what do other people think? We allow ourselves just to be fully alive in the experiences we're having. Like children, yes. So it's like coming back to being a child as we live our adult life.
Because I have the ethereal moments when I play with the kids. Yeah. When I look at the bright smile on their face, when they don't know how to say, except for the body language. That some kids that they want to hit me really hard, but I understand that they overreact because they have no word to say. Yeah. And I think that's the ethereal moment. That's the important thing for me. That's the ethereal moment that I can find that what am I doing is a great job. Mm-hmm. What am I doing is okay to myself. I don't care about somebody with just what you adult. You shouldn't play with the kid like that way or this way. I'm happy with that moment. Yes. And are you?
Since we are talking about like kids being around with kids and all these experiences, there's this one experience that came to mind, and it was, I feel like that's also like an ethereal moment, a moment where I saw different, not realities, but I saw how the shift of my perspective, happened. I was a nanny before, and I was looking after this child who was raised consciously by a woman, single mom, and she had this different personality when she's with her mom and she's with me. And so we went outside one day and she just had a tantrum. She don't throw that much tantrum with her mom, but with me she just does that. We went out and she does that. And what I did is just being present with her and allowing her to express. But it was too much. And then I saw myself like an awareness of how I reacted internally. But I just just self-regulate. I saw it, and then after a couple of minutes, she changed her face. She was crying so much, but after a couple of minutes of crying, of like throwing tantrums, I watched her and she calmed slowly, and I asked her like, "Are you done?" And then her face changed as if nothing happened. Yeah. And then she came to me and I gave her a hug. So that moment that I asked her, "Are you done?" And her expression changed from being so mad, I don't know why, to someone like at peace. And that was a moment for me to see that, oh, it's such an easy, not easy, but if we people are aware of how we can self-regulate and how to hold ourselves in a space where we just allow ourselves to be, I think that will be easier. Because of course, growing up, there's this rules that we don't know there is, but then people will always tell us, this, I don't know how it's called, but, and then that moment gave me a feeling of, okay, so this is it, but how powerful it is to just allowing expressions, allowing it to flow, acceptance, safety. The needs already came. Yeah.
Holding the space for her to feel and go through the emotion that she had without reacting in a way that needed to control or influence. Okay, emotional repression is when we're taught and told, "Oh, you don't feel that way," or you can't act that way from your emotion. What you're describing, I would call a wow, awe. So awe, we say awesome, or and I think there's times when I just feel very alive and awake to the here and now moment. An example might be that I'm riding my motorbike through the rice field in the morning, and the air is very cool, and the sun is and I'm just feeling this awe, like, look at where I am, look at this moment. How did I get here? It is such an aliveness in the presence of that experience. And while certainly it can happen when there's beauty or there's something awesome around me, I think now I more and more have these experiences where I just am awed by the time and place, and sometimes even like the people. Like, wow, this life is remarkable. It's a gift, I think it's very much related to being present, because when those things are happening, there's not all the other worry or chatter or what's next or what I'm supposed to be. It's more like, wow, this is where I am. This is that moment. And there is probably a brain chemistry, endorphins or
Yeah, I can relate to what Kathy described, but it was more like an aha moment, an insight moment. But yeah, I guess I can share that. As I said, these past weeks have been pretty turbulent, and some days ago I had, to be honest, it felt like it came close to a psychotic experience, but I've had this observing part on the whole time, and that's what made it, held the safe space for it, let's say. My perceptual hierarchy totally went to shit, pardon my language. You know, it's like I felt like I regressed to the day I was born. I was in the shower, and all the objects, all the colors, all the perceptual input suddenly had equal salience. So you know how our attention is selective, and our brain prioritizes. So we have this hierarchy of attention, of salience, what's to pay attention to and what's not, what's relevant, what's not relevant. And suddenly it was all in my face, like colors, contrasting colors, especially drops, like shower drops, sounds. And I felt this very strong need to be held, but there was nothing, you know, like absence, and nothing makes sense except for I still have these thoughts running in the background, reporting me what is happening in my brain. Well, approximately, of course, I'm not that good in this neuroscientific stuff. And then it lasted for maybe 5 or 7 minutes. And I know that before an inner critic would snap in like this, like the parental part, but the parent who is scared about what's happening and trying to shush the tantrum, like stop it. And then I just let myself experience it, and maybe after 5 minutes, like this internal mother snapped in, saying like, it's okay, you can let it out, I'm here, you're doing well. And then maybe 2 more minutes, and well, defenses were back on. I don't know, it got back to place. So it just like that, you know, just like that little girl, you said, are you done? And her face changed and she was like, yeah. So it was the same. Just in the moment, it was over. And it freaked me out, but I was happy to observe that I actually do have this benevolent parent. I do have this, well, first of all, I have this observing part, like the observing ego, which can hold it like a safe space instead of letting me collapse completely. Because it's maybe the second time in my life I experienced something like that. It's not like I'm not used to that. And secondly, I have this internal part which was supportive rather than tyrannical in this situation, and I'm happy. That was a good thing to realize.
There's also coming with a lot of questions.